When you go from being broken to being healed, there is this line, right? There's this line of history of all the things that I used to be, all the bad habits that I used to have, all the abandonment issues, all the brokenness, all the childhood trauma, all the rejection, all of it. There's a line, right? There's all my history and all the men that I used to attract, all the men I asked God to deliver me from, all the abusive and narcissistic and cheating and lying and scheming men that I asked to be delivered from. I had to ask God, make me invisible to anything that is not like you. Make me unattractive. Make me stink to these men so that they do not come to me anymore because I don't want them. Not only that, I started to notice, gosh, I became invisible, right, to so many men because a lot of men are not in the will of God. So once God delivered them from being attracted to me, not only did he have to deliver them from being attracted to me, he had to deliver me from being attracted to them, because I don't think I ever took time to ask God, take away my desire, my appetite, my enthusiasm for men that reject me, abuse me, treat me like shit, make me have to prove myself and win love from them. I had to be delivered from that too, because it was all that I ever knew. Now, when you get delivered, right, there's always Egypt, then there's the wilderness, then there's your land overflowing with milk and honey. There is this line. There's this line of who I used to be, and then there is this who I'm becoming and the kind of men that I want to attract. Right now, there's this wilderness. So I have to become comfortable with being by myself, seeking first the kingdom of heaven, focusing on loving myself and loving God, setting so many boundaries to where when a new man comes into my life, I don't lay down my boundaries. I do not make a man into my idol. So that way, when he blesses me with the husband that I prayed for, everything that I wanted and desired, I will not place it above him. Not only that, you have to go through the loneliness, the quietness, the isolation, so that way you don't confuse the two, because right now you are still on the line. This means that I'm not quite who I want to be yet, but I'm not who I used to be. So right now, there's too close of a chance that I'll still attract the man rooted in my history, my pain, and my abandonment before I will attract the man that's rooted in my healing, my deliverance, and my breakthrough. Therefore, I need to stay so saturated in the presence of God so that I don't fall into the temptation of the enemy that takes me back to Egypt, into slavery, the brokenness, and the rejection. When you go into isolation, it's really God keeping you for himself, because even though he's delivered you from Egypt, he has to get Egypt out of you. The people who were being delivered from Egypt into the promised land, they stayed in that wilderness for such a long time because there was some uprooting. There was some change that had to be done. There was some breakthrough that needed to be done so that they didn't take their history into their future. And I'm just saying, when God isolates you, let him. Because you go out of desperation and out of loneliness. Well, why nobody want to talk to me? Nobody pursue me? Because that's not who you're trying to attract anymore. You want to attract someone who's healed, someone who's in the presence of God. God has to give you an appetite for the land overflowing with milk and honey. So you're not desiring wilderness food like manna and quail that came from you when you were in your season of desperation and famine. You're not going to partake in the things that you used to partake in, because God is trying to give you the land overflowing with milk and honey. And it's lonely sometimes. You feel like you're starving sometimes. But I'm trying to tell you, it's better for you to go without than to partake in the things of your slavery and the things of your history and the things that you already asked God to deliver you from, because you'd be just like a dog returning back to its vomit. So when it's all said and done, if God has got you isolated, you are in your season of quietness and stillness, nobody's pursuing you and dating you, perhaps he's trying to get you to cross over into your land overflowing with milk and honey, because the people of your history didn't do anything for you but abuse you, reject you, abandon you, and make you look a fool. And you got to be okay with being by yourself, even when it get quiet, even when you get horny, even when you get lonely, even when you feel afraid and you feel like you just want some company. You got to lean into that. I'm not just talking to you. I'm talking to me. Lean into that quietness, because you never had quietness before. You've always went to somebody when you felt alone and isolated. What did that result in? You getting your feelings hurt. You always ran to the world for all the things that you thought you needed, when God is telling you, run to me, run to me. I'm going to give you everything you need. And when you finally are ready, you will be able to cross over into your land overflowing with milk and honey. But as long as you continue to crave slave food, crave the things from your history, the rejection, the abandonment, as long as you go and partake in situations and situationships that don't serve you or serve me, you're going to continue to stay in this wilderness. So thank God for the wilderness, because it means you're crossing over, but you don't want to stay there longer than you have to. So be still. Don't cry about the waiting season. Just wait until God gives it to you. When is your proper time to cross over? When is your proper time to meet your husband, to enter into your land? You will. And you won't be desperate when you do it, because you'd be so focused on being filled by the Holy Spirit, the renewing of your mind, the transformation of your soul, that you won't even realize how far you've traveled from where you used to be to who you are now. So if you healing, keep on healing. But don't go back to the place that broke you just because you feel isolated. And I'm not just talking about relationships at this point. Don't go back to the old habits of your history, your family, your work, your anything. When God is trying to deliver you from one place to another, there's always going to be a wilderness in between that. And that wilderness, you're going to have to depend on the miracles of heaven. You're going to have to depend on God to be your comfort, to be your light, to be your joy, to be your family, to be your provision, to be your finances, to be your peace of mind. You're going to have to depend on him, because when you are in your wilderness, that's when you need the miracles of heaven. Because when it's finally time for you to cross over, finally time for you to reach your breakthrough, you're going to be overflowing with milk and honey. Everything you need in that land is going to be supplied. Therefore, the miracles are going to cease. And you don't need to be looking forward to miracles when God is already giving you an abundant land overflowing with milk and honey. Be patient and be still.